Today, I would like to discuss a very sore and painful topic, which is usually brought up by my professional clients, architects first and foremost, followed by CPAs, doctors, and some lawyers who don't know that much about the debt collection process. That question is, how much at risk is my house? And I would like to answer that question for you. There are two considerations when you think about that. The first question is, what risks are you susceptible to? And the second question is whether the house is at risk if one of the risks you're susceptible to comes through. So, first, the question is, what is likely to result in a judgment against you personally that would then be enforced against the house? Typically speaking, if malpractice is your biggest concern, you would purchase malpractice insurance and make sure the policy covers the risks that you're most concerned about. And as long as you have that, you're not so likely to have a judgment go against you that's not covered by the policy unless it's outside the limits of coverage. But you know what you're doing and you know what the risks are, so you can probably pick relatively reasonable coverage limits. You can also do some other things to keep yourself safe, like doing business in the name of your professional corporation or professional limited liability company or whatever vehicle you're able to use, as well as limiting your liability in your engagement letters with clients and in any other contract that you sign with anybody else. So, those are all risk mitigation mechanisms that you can use in addition to the basic issue that you'll defend yourself if you get sued. And if you hire a good lawyer and aggressively defend yourself, the case is highly unlikely to go to trial. It's much more likely to settle based on what you've learned is your likelihood of liability once you get somewhat close to a trial. So that's going to be the first question. What could even happen that's not covered by insurance that would result in a large personal judgment against you? The second question, assuming that you can think of a few things, which a lot of people can, is how much risk is the house actually at? Well, that's a question of how much equity you have in the house. A lot of people don't have as much equity available to creditors as they think they do. The reason is several things. The first is there's oftentimes a mortgage on the house. If the house is worth $1 million and there's a $600,000 mortgage on the house, then at the moment there's only $400,000 in equity on the house to begin with. So the next thing is New York has a homestead exemption, which changes frequently but is approximately $170,000 for the first owner and double that for two married owners of the property. So that means you're going to add the amount of money which is exempt from being taken by creditors to the mortgage that you have on the property, plus any other equity lines of credit that you may have on it, a home equity line of credit or something like that. And there may not be much left once you've done that. So, say with the example we had before, you've got a $600,000 mortgage and you're a married couple that owns the house. So, if it's New York City, let's add another $340,000. So, that's $940,000 is exempt. And let's keep in mind that when you foreclose on a house, they usually sell it at auction and it's going to get 10 to 20% below market. So there's literally nothing left for a judgment creditor in this kind of a situation. arguably, even if it wasn't a $600,000 mortgage, even if it was a $400,000 mortgage, by the time by the time you add the 340,000 and you subtract out 15% for reduced market value that you get at auction, and the cost of litigation to the creditor, it's still not that likely that the house is going to end up getting auctioned. The problem is going to be that at some point you're going to pay off the mortgage, or you're going to have paid down the mortgage, and the house may increase in value, and then it may reach a point where it's worth it for the creditor to foreclose. So it may not be the best situation forever, but if you're simply trying to evaluate what is the likelihood that you're going to immediately lose your house, it may, for most people, it's not as high as they think that it is. Now, there are a lot of people, I work with a lot of people who have paid off their house, who have a regular, substantial salary, who have the kind of things that are not so easy to move around and are very easy for creditors to take. And that really creates an incentive for people to file lawsuits. And so, if that's your situation, we should get together and talk about what your risk levels are and what we can do to make sure that you're safe if, God forbid, something happens. My name is Bradley Balin. My phone number is 646-326-9971. And my email is brad at Balin Law. That's BRAD at BalinLaw.com. B as in boy, AI, L, Y as in yes, N as in Nancy, law.com. Thank you. Be safe and be well.